Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Visit Tuscaloosa.
They did a good job of taking away our three ball, and they really, when we drive and get in the paint, they would really build out, and then they would challenge us to make a tough shot over their rim protector. Honestly, it just happened so quick, and it's hard to kind of express how I'm feeling right now because I can't believe it's over. It happened so fast. It haven't hit me yet.
Well, Mark Sears said a lot right there. Just like that, it ends. Not just for him this season, but his college career. A legendary college career at the University of Alabama. Good evening, everybody, and welcome into Tider Insider TV, presented by Visit Tuscaloosa, alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. I'm WVUA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris. Alabama's March Madness run came to an end on Saturday night up in Newark, New Jersey, an Elite Eight loss to the Duke Blue Devils. Duke's size and athleticism really was a mess for Alabama. I'll just be honest with you. Alabama's offense, which came in leading the country in scoring at 91 points per game, held to 65. The only other time we had seen that happen was against Ole Miss in Tuscaloosa when they were held to 64. They also lost that game too. If Alabama doesn't get the score up there, there's a good chance they're going to lose. But Duke was outstanding. They held Alabama to 8 of 32 from the three-point line, 23 of 65 overall from the field, Rodney. Probable number one overall draft pick, Cooper Flagg. If he goes into the draft, he will be the number one pick. He's the real deal. But this Duke team is deep and talented, and that's the way it works. They were a 1 seed. Alabama was a 2 seed, so this bracket advanced as it was supposed to. But you knew you were playing a great team. Alabama would have had to play a heck of a lot better than they played to win the game. But Duke has a lot to do with that. That's the way this tournament works. The deeper you go, the better the competition.
It's like last year. I mean, they get to the Final Four, you play UConn as a juggernaut, and kind of same thing. Duke, this might probably be the best team in the country. Obviously, we're about to find out. But, just a tremendous team. But, Gary, you look back at the BYU game. You remember all the threes that were falling. Mm-hmm. Alabama was raining threes. Mm-hmm. Everything they shot was going down. They had some good shots in this game. Yeah. They had some good looks. The ball just wasn't falling.
Yeah, you saw Mark Sears. What a legacy he will leave at Alabama. One of the most decorated players in Crimson Tide history. But he's not the only player that's leaving, and there may be some others, obviously, in the portal. But as far as those that exhausted their eligibility, Sears, Grant Nelson, Chris Youngblood, and Cliff Amore. Youngblood and Amore were here only one season. Nelson for 2, Sears for 3. But this year, an Elite 8 out on the heels of a Final Four, Rodney. Let's keep in mind, because I've been a little surprised. Not all of them, but some Alabama fans calling my radio show and reaching out to me on social media talking about how disappointed they are. And I can be a little bit disappointed. But remember, this is a program that had never been to the Final Four ever, had never been to an Elite 8, or had only been to one Elite 8. Now you've gone to a Final Four and an Elite 8 on back-to-back seasons after being the number one overall seed and a Sweet 16 appearance 2 years ago. So if this is the floor, in other words, if this is, as low as it is for Alabama, be pretty happy. Elite 8, that's why it's called the Elite 8. You're elite if you get that far.
Expectations change quickly. I mean, when, what Nate Oats has done, the expectations, again, I think before the season, Gary, a lot of Alabama fans, Alabama was a preseason number one. Honestly, they thought they would be in the position Auburn's going into in this Final Four. And I think Auburn being there in the Final Four bothers Alabama fans a little bit because their expectation was they were going to be there. This was going to be the year that Alabama was going to have a legitimate shot to play for the national championship, get back to the Final Four. But like you said, I mean, when you just say that one time, you go to a Final Four, you go to an Elite 8. I mean, these are places at Alabama basketball. They've been to the Elite 8 once before, obviously, twice if you consider last year as well. But then, with Godfrey. But to be there 2 years in a row to go to the Elite 8, the Final Four, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I can be as difficult as anybody, but I can't call a season in which you reach the Elite 8 a disappointment. I just can't do it. It's too hard to get there. And there have been so many good Alabama teams that never made it. And so this, while I understand the goal was the Final Four, it's not like they went out and got beat in the round of 32 or even the round of 16. Speaking of that round of 16 game, if the Duke game was a low point, certainly it was, the Brigham Young game right before it was a high point in Newark. 113 points. Sears went for 34 points on 11 of 18 from the field, 10 of 16 from 3. So it wasn't anything that he was able to follow up on. But in that BYU game, Rodney, you watched them play in that game, and you said, my gosh, if they play like that, nobody will beat them. Yeah. But let's be honest. BYU's a good team. They're not Duke. They went underneath the ball screens, and a lot of people have talked about that. But what that means is by going underneath, they left the three-point shooters open. And you see it right there. Duke didn't play them that way. And I don't understand why BYU did, because I know this. If you leave Alabama open enough, they'll start making them.
Well, we talked about last week. One of BYU's weaknesses was they didn't defend the three very well.
Right.
They didn't defend it in this game, and everything Alabama shot was falling. You know what? And I got a little uneasy, Gary. You're hitting that many shots, and all of a sudden, the hype starts building, and hey, Duke's waiting right down the road. So
yeah. Unusual tournament, though, Rodney. It's only the second time ever that all 4 of the top seeds made it to the Final Four, and 3 of the 2 seeds reached the Elite Eight. So you only had a one top 2 seed that didn't make it, and that was a 3 seed that did in Texas Tech, and they almost beat Florida. So it's a blue blood type of bracket, and Alabama's season has come to an end. And now it's time for Coach Talk. And although the season didn't end how Nate Oats wanted it to, you know what? He's excited for the future of the program. Why shouldn't he be? Alabama right now with Nate Oats has set a standard. And the standard is that every year they're going to have a top 5 to 10 roster in college basketball and have a chance to have a run at the Final Four, I think, every year. Here's Coach Oats talking about where this program has gotten to.
With the standard of excellence we've set across all of college basketball, we've established ourselves as one of the best programs in the country. Are we disappointed tonight? For sure we are, but we've put ourselves up there with everybody else, and we're going to continue to do that year in and year out and keep knocking on the door, keep pounding the stone, if you will, and, be one of the teams competing for a Final Four and a national championship and conference championships in the best conference in college basketball every year, and we'll get back to Final Four and win one here soon.
All right, Rodney, and you know what? When one season ends, what do? You start building for the next one. Already, Alabama has dipped into the portal with a commitment of Noah Williamson from Bucknell, 17.6 points, 7.6 rebounds, 53.8% from the field, 31.8% from 3, Rodney. This guy's 7'1" and 250 pounds. So he can go out and shoot a 3. How about that? Bring some much-needed size, or 7 feet. 7 feet, 7'1". He's a big dude. He's originally from Latvia, so he's got that European-style game where even though he's 7 feet, 250 pounds, he'll go out on the floor. Listen, man, this is a really good pickup.
Huge. I mean, when you look at how athletic he is, there's so many different things that he can do, Gary. He can handle the ball. He can shoot, as you said, shoot the 3, rebound. He can do it all. I mean, he's true, what you call a stretch 5 now is what they like to refer to, and he's certainly that.
Yeah, he is. And with Amori leaving, Nelson leaving, you don't know what else is going to happen with the roster. This is a nice early pickup from the portal. Now, a lot of people were, thinking about Adrian Woolley, the former Paul Bryant High School star at Kennesaw State. He is committed to Louisville, but Alabama certainly did take a look at him. All right, let's get to football recruiting now. And as Rodney predicted last Tuesday night on Tider Insider TV, the Crimson Tide did receive a commitment from 2026 5-star cornerback Jordan Edmonds. Now, Edmonds had been a priority target for the Crimson Tide, a priority target for a lot of people, over 40 offers. Rodney, this is a guy who, you always say this, but it's true. Just put on the tape.
Yeah.
He's really talented.
When you look at him, too, he kind of fits the mold of what Alabama's really been recruiting here recently in terms of the length at corner. He's 6'2.5" or so, tackles really well. Someone made a comparison to Patrick Surtain, just kind of the way Surtain looked physically. When he was in high school, when he committed to Alabama, he's got some of those tools. We talked about some of the young players at Alabama, DeJohn Lee, who's a guy that, obviously 6'4", corner, came in this year, and some other young players that they have. But he fits that mold, Jordan Edmonds. Gary, he had an opportunity. He had nearly 50 offers. So he could have gone basically anywhere he wanted.
And I know Alabama's looking at him on defense, but he's a gifted offensive player, too.
Extraordinarily athletic. That's one thing that makes him, I think, really valuable is, you find some DBs, the reason they play DB is because they don't really catch the ball well, but he's got good hands.
Yeah, all right. Good recruiting on both the basketball and football front. Well, still to come on Tider Insider Television, Alabama Gymnastics hosting an NCAA Regional inside Coleman Coliseum for the 17th time this week. Coach Ashley Johnston will be back with us tonight in the studio to discuss the Tuscaloosa Regional and Alabama's chances of getting on to nationals. She'll be with us when we come back. Also, we'll be getting your phone calls in just a little bit. That phone number, as always, 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. We certainly want to hear from you, TITV Nation. We'll be right back with Tider Insider TV after this. And welcome back to Tider Insider Television, presented by Visit Tuscaloosa. I'm Gary Harris, and no, that's not Rodney Orr, obviously. If you've been watching this regularly, gymnastics coach Ashley Johnston, I want to almost say Sarah. That was your mentor, your former coach. But Ashley Johnston's been with us a number of times. But this is the most special week of the season so far. Alabama set to host regionals for the 17th time this week. The Tide's first session will be on Friday. Alabama gets the bye, which was very, very important because there will be competition on Thursday. But I want to well, thanks first of all for coming in and joining us.
Yeah,
as
thanks so
always.
much for having me.
But let me hand off to you, and because I know they changed the way they do this a few years back. Just kind of set the table for us on what this regional competition is going to entail.
Absolutely. So, yes, we're hosting the regional championship. We're extremely excited. And a few years back, we actually changed the format to make it more of a tournament style. And so we start with a round of 36, and that competition happens on Thursday. And it's like a play-in round. So there's two competitions that battle it out to qualify on to the Friday session, round 2. So on Friday, there'll be 2 sessions of 4 teams. We are in the 1 o'clock session, so be sure to go buy your tickets on rolltide.com. And there's also a night session with 4 teams. And the top 2 teams from each session qualify on to Sunday. And so we're really excited to get to host some amazing teams to compete with the best in the country and hopefully earn an opportunity to qualify on to that Sweet 16 competition and then ultimately Elite 8, which will be in Fort Worth.
Because that's been your goal all year. And you and I visited here on TITV. We visited on the radio. It is a tough season. It's a tough sport. There are a lot of injuries. There are a lot of ups and downs. But you always kind of kept the faith and you know, early in the season, when I'll say it, seemed like you were struggling some.
Yeah, it was tough.
But you would come on, and you were always like, "No, we always move ahead," and I still believe on where we can go. And you continue to improve. And dare I say it, as you get to the postseason, you're probably competing at the highest level you have all year.
Absolutely. This team is peaking at the right time, and there's no doubt the season has been tough. It's had our series of ups and downs and in-betweens, but that's where growth happens. You know, growth happens in the hard, growth happens in the discomfort and those moments where you're really faced with that decision of how am I going to fight? How am I going to push? What is that deeper why, that purpose of what gets them out there in an arena full of 15,000 people to go compete their heart out? And so I think if anything, the struggle brought our team closer together. They have really connected and just decided that they're putting everything into these moments. They're not holding anything back. And the number one thing is they want to leave this season knowing that they gave it every single thing they had and there was no regrets.
6 national championships at Alabama, but not any since 2012. I think you were on that team.
That's right, I was.
But it is so much harder now. There are so many more programs that are prominent in gymnastics. As you said, the format, it's more difficult. So it would even be more of an accomplishment, especially for where this team started. If you could get to the weekend and you could finish in that top 2 and get on to nationals, do you feel like you have a legitimate shot?
I really do. Like I said, I think this team is peaking at the absolute right time of the year. They've been steady and just continuing to improve week after week. And one of our goals going into the SEC championship was to really make a statement and to show that Bama truly is one of the top teams in the country. And we did that. We won out. We won out our session. We were extremely dominant in our performance, and I think really set the standard of Bama is capable of being a contender. And so we want to go in there with that same mindset, not add additional expectation or pressure to it, and just play our game. And if we focus on playing our game and we do that well, I think we have a great shot at moving on.
All right, obviously Thursday it starts. Let's talk tickets, and also let's talk Friday. You're in the afternoon session, and if people want to come out, what do they need to do?
Yep, so 1 o'clock is our session on Friday. That's that start time. It's a little bit different than our normal home meet, so be sure to plan ahead, come early, and tickets are going to be free for students. And there's actually no school that day either. So great opportunity to have afternoon plans on Friday. And then families can still buy tickets on rolltide.com. We'll have all of those links posted on social media as well. Really looking to see a great crowd as our seniors are going to be performing there for the last time this weekend. And the more people that come, the more that we create that home field advantage that is really tough for our opponents to compete in. We continue to get that feedback from our rivals that have come into Coleman. They have said that this is a really hard place to compete, and we love that. That is a testament to our fans, to our community, to this rich history of excellence that Alabama gymnastics has been known for year after year.
All right, students, you heard her. You're no school. It's free. Don't just come out. Paint up crimson and white. Bring the shakers. Make it tough. Be respectful, but make it tough on the opposition. Thank you, Coach.
That's right.
Good luck.
Thank you so much. Roll Tide.
All right, we're going to come out with some phone calls, and I'm told phone lines are wide open. We'll also be talking some Bama baseball. They had a huge weekend series and got a win in the SEC. Softball did as well. There's the phone number, 205-348-9882. 205-348-9882. Go ahead and give us a call. We want to hear from you, Tider Insider Nation, when we return. Big series win for Alabama baseball over the weekend, taking 2 of 3 from a quality Oklahoma team. The Tide moved to 25-4 overall. More importantly, though, 6-3 in the SEC. That's pretty tasty. Now, there's some teams with better records, but Alabama's right in the hunt for this SEC championship. Close games throughout the series. Sunday, though, in the rubber game, Alabama head coach Rob Vaughn had said, you know what, we got to start faster, Rodney. We're coming out, we're getting behind, we're playing catch-up. They jumped all over Oklahoma early and then held on. But that early offense, 3-run home run very early, and then Connor Osmer came in and shut it down late to get the 8-6 win. So as I mentioned, Bama 6-3 in the SEC. That's the best start in conference play since 2014. And welcome back into TITV. Rodney Orr is back, and phone lines are open. 205-348-WVUA. Let's change that. In the meantime, we're going to get to our email question of the day, and our email question of the day is brought to you, as always, by KDM Service Corporation. For all your heating and air conditioning needs, KDM serves your family like our family. All right, I know it's early, but it looks like we have a long way to go in football recruiting. Any thoughts? Steve in Tuscaloosa. Well, Steve, I would disagree with you a little. Now, Rodney's the expert. I'll turn it over to him, but I think they're off to a solid start for 2026 recruiting.
Look, I think you really, like I said last week, I really think you look at kind of the players they're getting in for junior day, for these spring practices, the things that they're holding right now. They've had a ton of top prospects that have visited, a lot of great response. I think come June, that's when all the things start getting exciting, because you guys come in on official visits, they decide to make decisions, all of those types of things. Gary, let me remind some people, okay, a little bit. You know, a few years ago, Nick Saban's classes in May were ranked 52nd. One was ranked like 65th one year, and people were all, what's going on? They ended up in the top 2 or 3. Again, it's still very, very early.
All right, thank you for our email question of the day. We're going to get to another email before we have to go to the break, and it's from Bobby in Thomasville. Is there an expectation that Christy Curry should make it to the Sweet 16? Bobby, I think that's a good question. I think it's a fair question. I think, yes. I know she wants to get to the Sweet 16. I mean, they were a 17-point lead late in the third quarter away from going to the Sweet 16 this year over in Birmingham when they lost to Maryland. So I thought this was a Sweet 16 caliber team that she had. It was. As we said, they were up 17 on Maryland. You know, Maryland took South Carolina right down to the wire. So yeah, Rodney, I think that's a fair expectation for where this program's at. I know she expects to get there at some point and maybe beyond.
Yeah, you certainly hope so. Again, they're, like you said, they're one step away, Gary, and they've seemed to take those steps. I mean, I know at times it seems like it's been a little maybe slower than what you'd want or hope for, but they're taking those steps. They're getting closer, so hopefully as she gets this next roster together, it'll be as talented and they'll have an opportunity to do that.
All right, still to come on Tider Insider Television. Alabama softball takes a series against a ranked SEC opponent at home. It's their first series victory in the SEC this season. And I want to say we'll get to more of your phone calls, but we'd like to get to any of your phone calls. I don't know what's been going on with our callers lately. I know it's spring. I know it's pretty. But light those phone lines up, 205-348-9882. We love interacting with you. And we'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, the one, the only Tider Insider TV. Big weekend for Alabama softball this past weekend as the Tide got its first SEC series of the win. They did it after losing the first game on Friday, came back and took the Saturday and Sunday games. They lost 4-3, but came back with a 5-4 win on Saturday and an 8-5 win on Sunday to win the series against a really good Georgia team. It's their first SEC Series win of the year. Right now, they're playing a doubleheader. They beat Alabama State 6-4. They're taking on Samford right now. We mentioned baseball earlier, too. Baseball is also playing Samford, and we're going to have highlights from those games coming up tonight on the news at 10. And welcome back into TITV. Asking you shall receive. We've got a phone caller ready to go. Gabe over in Northport is going to lead us off. Hey, Gabe.
Hey, what's up, guys? I got a question. Can you guys talk to me or tell us a bit more about the new 8-8 format that Coach Sports doing?
We sure can, Gabe. First of all, I'm excited that Alabama understands how big this is to the fans, to still have 8-A ceremonies going on, all the things that go with 8-A, and they will have an open practice inside Bryant-Denny Stadium. It's free to the public, but it's going to be a practice. And I loved it when it used to be a game. Right now, I still remember when they played a real game. But I get it. It's kind of where we're headed for different reasons. And the last thing, everybody wants to see a game, but and I know there's non-contact injuries that can happen, but the last thing you want to do is have a game and then you get a key contributor hurt with a knee injury that's going to be out for the season. So I'm still glad that they're doing an 8-A celebration, and I would love to see more of a competitive type environment, but I'm thankful that the fans still get to come down and see a practice.
Yeah. It'll be a similar atmosphere. Of course, it'll be a lot different than, some of the ones that we've seen in the past, for sure. But in terms of the way it's set up, like you said, a practice, Gary. But there's a lot of schools, they're canceling it. I mean, they're not having events, nothing. And you have to remember, too, the way the portal is, if this gets a lot of exposure and, schools start seeing your roster and they see a guy, they say, hey, that guy looks pretty good. There's a lot of tampering that goes on.
Well, come on out on April 12th. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we'll be back to wrap it up right after this. And that's going to wrap it up for this edition of Tider Insider TV. Remember, you can catch a replay tonight at 10:30 on WVOA 23 or find it anytime at WVOA23.com. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching. We're going to leave you tonight with some pictures of the Alabama women's wheelchair basketball team up in Champaign, Illinois on Saturday. They beat UT Arlington 67-52 to win their 5th consecutive national championship. That's what I call a dynasty. Congratulations. Good night, everybody.